And now for our feature presentation.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Botching It Up podcast. Every bruise, bump, and botch. Wrestling, you've been put on notice. Let's get ready to ramble!
What's up? This is the Botching It Up podcast, and this week we're talking about Hell in a Cell 2020. With me, as always, Benito and my good friend Basil.
Tucky!
And
Why don't you say hello and welcome to Botching It Up? And I have nothing to say today because I chose this show and Edwin wasn't even going to watch it. But I made him watch this, and then he was like, "Oh yeah, bro, by the way, I didn't bother to watch half the matches. Hope you don't mind."
well, I knew exactly the talking points of what we were going to talk about, and I didn't want to bother watching the really boring matches.
You could have given me the heads up.
I thought it
I watched
was.
the fucking pre-show, as usual.
Yeah, but you were going to watch that anyway.
Yeah, I was going to watch it anyway.
Well, so let me ask you about this pre-show 1 second, because I've got up here the lengths of the matches. This 24/7 championship match, was it a proper match, or was it a backstage thing?
It was a real match in the ring with Drew Gulak, who was a guy that had one of the best matches of the year against Daniel Bryan earlier in the year, against R-Truth. And R-Truth, Drew Gulak makes R-Truth mad by beating up Little Jimmy.
Little Jimmy's back?
Yeah, Little Jimmy's back based upon... So, Little Jimmy was mentioned by Jeff Jarrett earlier in the show, who for some reason was on the Hell in a Cell pre-show, which I was really excited to tell you about because I'm a massive Jarrett mark. He didn't really do anything, but he mentioned Little Jimmy, and then all of a sudden, Little Jimmy popped up, and Drew Gulak beat him up, and then R-Truth did the 5-knuckle shuffle.
Cool.
And won. And I'm not going to bitch about this, okay, because Drew Gulak's an adult, male, man, adult person.
Yep.
He re-signed a contract with Vince McMahon. He knew what he was getting in for. He just wanted a little bit more cash. So I'm not going to go to bat for the guy, because quite obviously this is what he wants to be doing with his time, because he could have easily got a contract with Impact or AEW. But I have to say it's very sad to watch a guy of that caliber, especially considering some of the matches he's had this year, not only drop to kickoff, but drop to playing, as Jim Cornette would say, with the Invisible Man, and losing to R-Truth in a couple
Was
of
it at
minutes.
least an entertaining match?
It was too short to be entertaining. It was just a thing.
Okay.
I don't understand the kickoff shows in general anymore, because surely they're meant to sell the show. They're aired live on YouTube and Facebook. I don't really know anybody that's going onto the network after watching R-Truth versus Drew Gulak.
I feel like nobody... I feel like it doesn't work anymore. There's nobody watching this on Facebook that doesn't already have the network, you know?
Is there anybody even watching this at this point? I'm not sure.
What, the pre-show?
Yeah.
Or even people that have the network?
Yeah, I mean, you don't watch it. I would say the majority of people don't watch it.
It's just you and your OCD.
Just me and my OCD, and the fact that Jeff Jarrett was on it.
So let's get into the real show. So the first match on the card is the Roman Reigns, Jey Uso, I Quit Hell in a Cell match. I'm going to defend myself before you get angry with me. I liked the match, and I liked the story. I'm really annoyed with the fact that there was, like, 3 stipulations forced into one match, and actually the story didn't need any of the stipulations. And I was sat there thinking, when they put the strap on each other's hands, like, surely you can't be loving this. You hate gimmick matches, and they've forced 3 gimmicks onto you.
Okay, well, I don't even know how I'm going to battle all of those flurry of questions. But you one of the main things that you said to me with this match was that the actual in-ring quality wasn't great. And you're also saying that they're throwing stuff around inside the match, different gimmicks and varying ideas for no apparent reason. And I would say both of those issues come down to the serious issue that this show had, which was booking themselves into a corner, getting confused about pacing, and getting confused about how to keep anything or everything interesting. And this comes down to the basic idea that we have been given 3 Hell in a Cell matches on a 3-hour show, all of which are going 20 to 30 minutes. So you've got the Hell in a Cell match as an idea being put on 3/4 of a pay-per-view show. And I can only assume that's why we had impromptu strap matches. That's why we had I quit stipulations. That's why we had people climbing up to the top of the cell. I think WWE did a really, really good job of trying their best to make each match fresh and feel a little bit different.
Yeah, they did something different every single time.
But
and it worked, in a way.
They also shouldn't have booked 3 main event Hell in a Cell matches on the same show.
It's been the case for years that they're forced to do this because, for some reason, they keep wanting to have a show named after the gimmick.
Right, and they're deep set into that rot now. I get that, but you didn't need, despite all of the fancy tricks that they had with McIntyre, and we will get onto that. I think they did the best job they possibly could with what they had given themselves. I don't even know how many times I've said that phrase now on this podcast. They did the best job they could with what they've given themselves.
Like all the time, every time you try to defend them.
But I mean, that match, that main event did not need a Hell in a Cell. Nobody believed the fractured jaw thing. Everybody, it was quite clearly Randy Orton had an amazing year. Drew McIntyre had an amazing year, and they forced a feud onto us that wasn't working, and they carried it on and bloody-mindedly said, "Well, you know what? We're not just going to even take it into the cell. We're going to put it on top of it because you guys aren't listening to us. We've told you over and over again." This is a really great match. You need to watch it. It's in the Hell of a Cell.
Well, I think they had to go on top of the cell because how else could they follow Sasha Banks and Bayley? Because for me, they for sure had match of the night, and then Orton and Drew were left with nothing. They had to do something crazy.
Yeah, and this is the problem because your main issue with the Roman Reigns match when you were talking to me about it, when you were just watching it through, was that you said you loved the story. But there was no in-ring quality. You thought the match itself was pretty dire.
So let me explain this. The first 15 minutes of their match, I loved it. I thought those two together, great chemistry. It was a decent match, but they overbooked the match in the last 10 minutes. There was too much of choking each other unconscious, and the referee would just stand there on top of him and say, "Do you quit? Do you quit? Do you quit?" The guy's unconscious, not answering. Like, how does that make any logical sense? Everyone just looks stupid. And then people run into the cell. So no longer do we have this gimmick of they're trapped in a cell, they're going to kill each other. No, the door's open. There's like 8 people in there. But the 8 people aren't doing anything. They're not holding anyone back. They're not getting in the way. They just stood there crowding the place. And it just more and more things, more and more layers keep happening. And none of it makes sense. And for me, it was just tearing the match apart. And I thought the match was thrown out. And then they beat up, and then we get that really cool spot where Roman sat there, and he starts crying. He's like, "Who have I become?" And Jimmy's like, "We're there for you, brother. We'll help you." And he starts choking him out. And then Jay quits to save his brother, which in the moment itself is really cool. But I thought the match had been thrown out 10 minutes ago. I didn't realize we still had a match here. It was chaos and absurd.
This is a really interesting perspective that you're showing me because I did not see any of the stuff that you're talking about. I did not see the crowding of the cell. I didn't see the rules of the cell having to be closed because basically, fundamentally, they got me. They got me in the story. Roman doing 3 spears on Uso, and then Uso saying, "I can't breathe," and they were just muttering to each other and. Roman saying over and over again to Jey Uso at one point, "Come on, Uso, let's go home, let's go home." Just talking to himself. Paul Heyman's getting a bit worried, not on behalf of Jey Uso, but on behalf of what Roman Reigns will do to Jey Uso when he gets back up. It felt vicious, it felt real, it felt bloodthirsty, it felt fitting for a cell match. And while I understand the points that you're making about the actual effectiveness of the reality of the situation of the match, I didn't notice because I thought they did an excellent job of immersing me within that story to the point where I swear, man, I don't think you would have noticed this anywhere near as much if they had a crowd, honestly, because it started to get to those levels of storytelling, not saying it to the same quality, but to those levels of storytelling that you're seeing in Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior, Hogan versus Rock, where they can just land a clothesline
Yeah.
on each other, and the crowd's going mental. They're eating it up because they're delivering such a powerful back and forth.
Yeah, for sure. If there was a crowd, this would be next level.
I actually
agree
kind
with
of
you.
like the strap stuff because it just added another layer of viciousness. Because after the Clash match, I didn't really know where they were going with this because Roman brutally murdered Jey Uso, basically. I liked when Roman first came in and he started acting like Brock without the fury. He was just calm, collected, and controlling. But then he started selling for Jey Uso, which I didn't like as much because we'd already seen him be destroyed, you know. So I thought that adding that strap was good because it added a level of sort of furious intensity while making it deeply personal
Okay, yeah,
again.
the strap is fine, but it was the last 5 minutes of the whole thing. Like, it really broke. For me, it felt really stilted. It wasn't a match anymore. I think if we hadn't had all those people come in to try and break them up, and we just had that final moment with Jimmy, because that was a really nice finish, and really, really fitting of the
Oh, it was a
story.
great finish. And honestly, the finishes throughout this show for the matches that actually mattered were great. All three of them.
So honestly, it goes down to I think I say this every time we do a WWE pay-per-view. The guys in the ring, the talent, like nailed it, but the people who are putting this match together, it just feels sloppy and overbooked.
Okay, I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna disagree with it as much as I usually agree with it because I actually thought that the actual Hell in a Cell matches were well put together. I do get your point about the Roman match feeling unstructured because it definitely was. It was a bit all over the place. It was chaotic. There were people running around and doing stuff, but just for me personally, I thought it suited. I thought it felt normal. It felt fine because they've built Roman up to a point now where he's quite clearly willing to hurt and do anything to his family and his relatives.
So what do you think of the Wild Samoans making a cameo, coming out in socks and
So
sandals?
this was great as well.
Yeah, it's cool.
I read up somewhere about the garlands. So that the white garland represents peace and harmony and family and stuff, which is why Jey Uso tears it apart just before Roman gets in the ring. And the red garland is reserved only for the head of the tribe, for the kingsmen, for the lions of the Samoan tribe. So that's why they handed him a red garland and basically showed their approval over these losers, Usos, as the king. I love everything that they're doing with this, and they've tried to do this stuff before. Like, they gave us Cena Orton for a year and tried to tell us that there was this much intensity to it. But this stuff just writes itself.
I wish commentary had explained that a bit better. They kind of got the point across that he was given the red one to be anointed as the leader of the family, but they didn't explain it as well as you just did.
Well, it's just Cole getting a bit too excited, isn't it? Because I picked up that white garland bit from him directly, and that made me go look up the red stuff, which they should have just mentioned. But then, obviously, again, there's little things like that. The red and white garland, the fact that Jey was wearing white and Roman was wearing black. These seem like small details that Vince wouldn't tell Cole to say because Vince didn't come up with them. This seems like a lot of this story has been created between the Usos and Roman, and they've put in small, tiny details because they actually care about the program. And look what happens when two wrestlers really care about the program.
Yeah, it's fantastic stuff. So you reckon we're going to one day get Roman versus Rock?
I think it has to build up to that, right? Like,
At Mania.
I assume they went with Jey 2 months in a row because Jimmy's currently injured. I would have assumed that it would be Jey and Jimmy down the line, The Rock. I think The Rock might make an appearance at Survivor Series if they actually want to plan in advance for once and then build up to that Mania match. If they've got the cash for it.
But isn't Rock officially on the Impact roster now?
Yeah, well, he is. It's been an interesting week in wrestling, man. Brandon Cutler, the Dungeons and Dragons nerd, got his first win with some nerd Lego in a AEW Dark match.
Okay.
Johnny Bravo got shot on Impact.
Yeah, I saw that.
And Tracy Smothers died about 2 hours before we went to air. So R.I.P. Tracy Smothers.
Oh, really? Shit.
We're about to spend a little bit more time with him if we carry on our route from 1990 onwards.
In our 90s saga, yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you think all of the Hell in the Cell decisions were good. I imagine because Randy Orton's your boy, you're happy with him being champion, but you've been supporting Drew all year. How are you feeling about the belt being swapped?
So when I first saw the news about this, I was pretty pissed off. I hated the fact that they had to give the championship to Orton, because again, it's just leading to Orton Edge at Mania for the championship. That feud, as we said months ago, that doesn't need a belt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's solely seems to be the reason why Orton is getting that belt. That being said, after watching the actual match, I thought they sold Drew as refusing to give up as a hard babyface champion so much that I didn't have too much of a problem with it, as much as I thought I would. And that's purely because he, after coming off the top of the cell, it wasn't the top of the cell, because really didn't impress me much. It was...
No, they kind of went up there, did a couple of things, and then came straight back down again.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, man, like, they're getting good reviews. I didn't see much of anything in it. I thought it was long, drawn out. They didn't have anything to do after the women's. They went to the top just because they needed to have an angle to do. The shots of the drone was cool. They had drone shots going around the cell, but they didn't do anything on the cell. And then they basically got down to a level which is at the same level as the top rope. Drew took a bump from the top rope, basically. But it was the dragging himself past round the cell, back into the ring. I loved him doing a desperation attempt backslide, which is how he won SummerSlam match. Just little attentions to detail like that, going for the Claymore, and then finally Randy Orton puts him out of his misery. I thought, if you're going to take the belt off Drew, that's the best way to keep him strong.
Well, a lot of people thought he was going to drop it last pay-per-view. Has it been worth him keeping it an extra month, really?
No, I mean, this is just WWE's booking again. It's the same thing with Otis Miz. They decide something on the fly that probably wasn't supposed to happen, change it, and then change it back again.
So, I'm not going to take credit for this, but someone else online came up with a really good idea. So, The Miz won the Money in Bank briefcase, right?
Yeah.
The idea being that The Miz would cash in the briefcase during the Hell in the Cell match, but then Randy Orton pins The Miz rather than pinning Drew to win the belt.
So Miz joins the triple threat and then gets...
Yeah.
I get that, yeah.
So then Drew wouldn't be pinned for the belt, giving an argument to the fact that they could have a rematch down the road.
The basic issue I have with this is not the way that they booked it. I thought the agents did a really good job tonight of trying their very best to keep everybody strong. It's the fact that it has to be done at all. And the thing that bothers me and baffles me so much is this stupid WWE booking. I think I talked about the exact same thing last week. They keep saying over and over again in promos that Drew McIntyre had been undefeated for nearly a full year and then was pinned by Randy Orton in a 6-man tag match on Raw.
Yeah, you were really pissed off about this last week.
I still am. What was the need? What was necessary to do that? I understand that WWE have this idea in their head that you have to keep a challenger looking strong so that the crowd knows that they could potentially win. We're talking about Randy fucking Orton. They don't need Randy Orton to get a cheap win over a champion to say to the crowd, look, he might win. People always expect that Randy Orton might well be winning. There was no need for it. And if you're going to have this big moment, you're going to have, if you really want the championship on Orton, make it a big deal. Make McIntyre losing via pinfall, his first pinfall loss in a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't do it on Raw a month before.
I don't even understand why Drew needs to drop the belt right now. Is it because there's no other contenders really on his level?
I don't understand that argument either, because if there's no contenders on Drew's level, you don't get rid of Drew, you build up some contenders.
True.
You know?
True.
No, I think it's because they want that extra heat at Mania for the belt with Edge and Orton. I also believe that Survivor Series, one of the things I'm thinking here is that Survivor Series is always champion versus champion, right?
Yeah.
So I think that they'd rather have Orton eat a loss to Roman than Drew eating a loss to Roman, because I think they're seeing Drew Roman as their big money match in a couple of years' time.
Oh, I see. I was under the impression that they just want Drew to win it back when there's a crowd, so he finally gets his like moment of glory.
There are ideas out there, including yours, that do make sense as to why this has to happen. I just don't see why it had to happen with this feud and that guy. I've been a Randy Orton fan since I was a kid, man, but he doesn't. He's getting to a point now. He's getting to that Undertaker point. He doesn't need a belt. He doesn't need anything.
No, everything he does from now on will feel interesting without a championship. Did you Did you hear the statistic that he's now matched Triple H in World Championships?
That's disgusting.
Does that should make you happy?
No, Orton's one of those guys that in a perfect world would fuck off to AEW for like 6 months and then take a year off and then come back because he's been on TV continually since 2002. He just needs a little break. He's become almost part of the scenery as good as he is. He just needs a little break to get fresh again so that people miss him.
Well, a part of the scenery. Have you seen online the graphics and stuff that we've currently got Randy Orton as champion, The Miz as Money in the Bank winner, which is the exact same as 2010.
Yeah, I heard about this. What made me laugh is that they've probably given the bank contract to Miz on purpose so that we can remember this historic event from their past. Yeah. But I can't remember anything that happened after 2007. It all just blurs into one. Apparently this was a big moment. Miz won off Randy Orton.
Was like the Miz's like first crowning of him becoming a main eventer, wasn't it? It was that immediately before the Mania where he gets shunned by The Rock overtaking his presence.
Yeah, he's like has the same level of importance in that WrestleMania match as a referee.
Yeah.
No, the thing that I find funny about this, the self-delusions of the WWE, is that they think that we remember this as an event, as a marquee idea. And I don't know, maybe younger kids do, but I don't particularly remember The Miz cashing in on Randy Orton, and I wouldn't really care if they repeated the same thing 10 years later, because it's not exactly Austin Rock, is it?
Well, can you imagine any other decade them putting the belt, I know Money in the Bank's not that old, but a secondary belt on people that were the top guys 10 years earlier? Like, imagine the 90s, you know, Stone Cold and The Rock are white hot, but they put it on Hogan and Mr. Perfect.
Well, this is the thing, man. 1980, WWE was WWF, and it was a territory promotion run by Vince McMahon Sr. Skip to 1990, and it's roided out larger-than-life freaks with Hulk Hogan, Big Boss Man, doing sort of childish kiddie wrestling.
Very cartoony.
Very extremely cartoony and over the top. You cut to 2000, you've got peak of the Attitude Era, crazy stuff going on, bad language, blood,
boobs, stunts, fire.
2010, we go back to kid friendly, and everything kind of feels shiny, like it's a McDonald's toy.
The HD era.
But there's not a hell of a lot going on. What has changed in the decade between 2010 and 2020?
Exactly the same, but no Cena.
But isn't that mental? Like, just looking through those decades from Vince McMahon Sr. up until now, there's one decade that hasn't changed whatsoever, and the same two people are on top.
And it's not 2010, it was a bit earlier than that. It was whenever they changed to the kind of electric stageway, like 2007 or 8.
I remember Chris Jericho versus Shawn Michaels ladder match from, I think, No Mercy 2008. Was the last one that was allowed blood, and it was a bit brutal. And I think that was the big turning point back towards PG.
Oh, wait.
But it's not even that PG is necessarily a bad thing. That's not the point I'm trying to make here. It's the fact that there's absolutely no change in style or substance for a decade.
Well, Randy Orton has had a bit of a gimmick change, I feel.
Well,
in the last week, it seems like he's cosplaying as Agent 47 from Hitman, dressing up in costumes and attacking people.
I loved his night vision goggles.
Yeah, but they didn't even look like night vision goggles. They more look like the goggles that Dr. Eggman wears in Sonic.
Sure, yeah. I don't know.
They were just painted green.
I don't even know where they would have got them from. It was quite Splinter Cell, actually. Do you know Graham Greene?
No.
He wrote Brighton Rock. Towards the end of his life, he kept a journal of his dreams. And I'm really fascinated at this point to see whether Vince McMahon is also doing the same thing, or whether the pay-per-views are just becoming fever dreams of his, honestly. Because I can completely imagine McMahon having a dream in which Randy Orton, in night vision goggles, takes out Ric Flair at the Big Show. Like, I'm waking up and thinking, God damn it, I need to get that on TV. It's the same thing with, like, Law and Otis, right? JBL's...
Oh, God, I actually went back and watched this.
So JBL's the judge.
Yeah.
Ron Simmons just does his damn.
Well, I'm glad that Ron Simmons has still got work in 2020.
I mean, same. Why was Teddy Long there? He didn't even do a catchphrase. He just said, "Oh yeah, no, I completely understand Japanese."
Yeah, but then in the wide angle, he wasn't even in the shot. I got no idea where he came from or where he went.
I mean, if that's not a Vince McMahon dream, that he just woke up one day and said, "I've just had this dream, this is happening now," I don't know what is.
And The Miz is a lawyer, and...
I thought it must have been actually quite awkward for them filming that scene, because the Miz was the lawyer and JBL was the judge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And JBL used to beat the shit out of the Miz.
I was there thinking that Wrestlers Court has got posh. You know, they got fancy furniture. They got a bailiff.
I'm surprised they didn't make more inside jokes about it, honestly. Also, I wanted to mention that we are getting The Undertaker again, whether we like it or not. I don't know whether he's wrestling.
He's doing a 30-year celebration, right, at Survivor Series.
Yeah, wheel him out from his crypt again. Poor
But
old Calloway.
30 years is 1990. Was he in the WWF in 1990? Because I feel like I'm currently watching him in WCW.
I would assume that he was in the WWF Bang On Survivor Series 1990, right?
Okay.
I hope so anyway, because there's always that... Do you remember when they did WrestleMania 25 and called it the 25th anniversary?
Yeah, I do. And I remember you ranting about it for the next 2 years.
I enjoyed the Ric Flair Street Profits costume designer Skittles advert.
I thought the... Yeah, but then it has like their heads in a bubble at the end, and I was just thinking, Ric Flair doesn't even know what he's doing. I feel like he doesn't know what he's turned up to film.
His eyes are permanently glazed now.
It's like they wheeled me out. They told me to do some woos.
What were your thoughts on the main event overall?
I felt like it wasn't the main event, but again, that might just because I was fatigued of Hell in the Cell matches at that point. So maybe...
This is the problem. This is the problem throughout the whole show. It's the pacing of the whole show. This is why I keep saying I have nothing against even the people that booked the matches, because they're just trying to make 3 Hell in a Cell shows interesting. It's not Abyss or Tyson Kidd or Michael Hayes that are deciding there's 3 cells on the show. They've just got to try and talk to each other and make it work. But I felt, I'm the same as you, I felt heavily fatigued by the time this main event come on. And when they started brawling on the outside before the match even started, I realised there was 45 minutes left.
Yeah, every single cell match went over 28 minutes, but the last one was 30 minutes.
So if they'd cut down the time for each, do you think that there wouldn't be this sort of level of rot that we felt?
I don't think the Roman Reigns Jey Uso match needed to be in the Hell in a Cell. I think if that was just an I Quit match, we would have got the same match. They used the cell a few times, but it wasn't necessary.
I'd still rather the Roman match be in the cell than the McIntyre.
Oh yeah, no, I would rather it be. But I'm just saying that match could have been just as good without it.
Yeah. A large problem as well is not just the trying to pace 3 cells in a 3-hour show. It's what you fill in with. The slapjack Bobby Lashley was fine because that was a 3.5 minute piece of bullshit that nobody was paying attention to, and sort of cleansed the palate, or attempted to, for the next Hell in a Cell. But they put 2 of the worst angles on TV at the moment, one after the other, after the first cell. So it's not really... Because the whole point of these matches outside of the big gimmick matches, right, is to sort of calm you down, chill you out, give you something different, so that you're then rejuvenated again for the next gimmick match. I assume that's the point of them. But you've just given me 2 boring matches in a row that I don't want to see.
I've always found this so fascinating about WWE, because I, just like everyone else, need those respites between the big matches. But then when you watch shows like New Japan, they never give you a break. Each match is better than the last one, and they just keep ramping it up more and more and more till your main event. They never give you a piss break. But in WWE, you need a piss break.
I feel like that's just different styles, though, isn't it?
I know, but I just find it so crazy that is a thing.
New Japan is not catered to storyline throughout the entire show. And maybe that's where WWE goes wrong. You might be right. Like, do we need continual storyline the whole show? We've got it with the three main Hell in a Cell matches. How much do we care about Elias Jeff Hardy? And
Let's just see a random AJ Bobby Lashley match for no reason.
But I think that would get boring as well, wouldn't it?
Possibly.
I don't know. There's something about the WWE style, and I think it is catered towards the problem of storyline, where they just seem to continually suffer from having to come up with a reason for people to fight. And if they don't come up with a reason for people to fight, it feels a lot more stagnant than a normal television match on AEW, in which they have no reason to fight.
Yeah. What about those pointless matches then? What's your opinion on The Miz beating Otis?
I don't really understand it, honestly, because you could have just had Otis lose the... so it's obvious that this is another Vince McMahon thing. He wanted the belt on... He wanted the briefcase on Otis, changed his mind about a month later, took him off TV, and now he's given it back to company man The Miz. For no reason, because we all know that Miz won't be cashing that in. Well, I assume not. Vince might have another dream, but I assume he won't be.
I was thinking that while I was watching the match. Why not just have Otis have a failed cash-in? Because we haven't seen that in a long time now.
Exactly. It adds sort of unpredictability to the Money in the Bank briefcase contract. It's quite clear that they've thrown this year's out the window and they don't want anything to do with Otis.
And you could have probably made Roman look like even more of a monster if, he's just had a match and then Otis cashes in and then Roman just absolute murders him.
Yeah. Oh, and who really cares about The Miz right now? He's been in some of the worst angles of the year. Now you're giving him a briefcase so he can be smarmy about it and continually bother the main event. I don't want The Miz anywhere near the main event right now.
The Miz surely is not going to be champion. So he's going to be a failed cash-in as well.
I don't know anything. I can't say anything about WWE anymore. They used to be painfully predictable, but they're getting to a point now where they're no longer predictable at all in a very bad way.
That's because they change the decision every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll just keep defending the briefcase all the way up until whenever the next pay-per-view is.
Do you want to hear something funny about Tucker turning on Otis?
Go on.
They're on different brands.
Oh, brilliant! I thought Tucker was technically unbranded.
No, he was branded. He was branded to Raw on the internet.
Oh, okay.
And Otis is on SmackDown. So they've just started a feud between two people in different brands, 1 week removed from the draft.
Oh my god!
I thought you'd like that one.
Of course they have, because there's no rules. Who cares?
I think John Morrison needs to get away from this stink.
I think yes, he's much better than this.
He's way too good for this. Because Miz is a company, Miz will do whatever McMahon asks him to, and he'll lap it up and say yes, sir. But John Morrison, since he's come back for his retirement hedge fund, I thought they would have used him a little bit better than the way that they've treated him.
Vince probably doesn't even know John Morrison did anything while he was gone. He's just like, oh, there's the Miz tag team partner back again. So that's a thing again.
Yeah, I mean the actual match was a boring television match, just the same as the Jeff Hardy match.
Oh yeah, no, I don't care about the match. It was just really the result and the fact that Tucky turned on his. I quite like the story of him turning on Otis because it makes complete sense. Because they're meant to be a tag team, but Otis has had the spotlight for like a year. So
yeah, I thought his backstage promo after the match was decent, but again, how far do I care? Because as Tucker himself said, nobody saw me.
Mm.
Well, yeah, nobody saw you, so why would we care now? We don't even know you anymore.
Well, I do feel sorry for Otis. I don't know, because you've been watching regularly, I don't know if you've noticed, but he has slimmed down a ton over this year. He's lost weight, he looks faster. I think, in himself, he was trying to get to that main event level.
And he nearly got there, but it was just a Vince whim. Vince decided he liked him for a couple of weeks and then decided he wanted him nowhere near the mid-card even after
If they treat him carefully, he definitely could be there one day.
I think he's one of the guys that's probably been impacted the hardest by the lack of crowd. He's one of those guys that really lives or dies off of crowd reaction, and it was all going so well because I think Vince was hearing that decibel level of Otis being loved, and that they had this stupid romance angle and the Mandy Rose stuff, and he made it work, and the crowd dug everything. So the rug, I think, just got completely pulled off.
He's a comedy guy, isn't he?
Because,
so he needs the crowd.
Yeah, so Vince just thought he was a one-trick pony. Yeah, no, I didn't hate that as much as Jeff Hardy versus Elias, which is just, it was a basic no-frills television match with an absolutely dreadful angle. This feud has absolutely no heat because the heels' actions make no sense. Like in the pre-show throughout, we've been told over and over again by commentators, pre-show panelists, interviewers, that Elias is kind of dumb because Sheamus ran him over. Jeff Jarrett said that to his face. And I don't think Jeff Jarrett was following his script. So Elias got caught off guard. He didn't know how to reply to that.
What did he say?
I think every single... He's just like, oh, you're obnoxious or something.
Right.
So I think Elias is really struggling to figure out why Elias is going after Jeff Hardy when Sheamus ran him over. And I think everybody else is as well.
Yeah. It's because his character is usually quite one step ahead. It used to be. And now he's portrayed as quite an idiot.
I said this before, I'll say it again. This would have been the perfect time to try Elias out as a face, because he's a guy, again, that feeds off crowd reaction, and he's not going to get that. And he gets more crowd reaction when he's a heel, but you can pipe in, this is awesome, and holy shit, all you want, but there's no one actually there saying that. This is the ideal time to experiment with people that you've only ever seen get a crowd reaction.
Yeah.
Hell, if you got nothing to lose, turn Otis heel.
Oh god.
Turn Otis heel. Turn Elias face. Turn these guys that are one type of character to the crowd the other way, just to see if they can do it. Because you might actually get a winner. You don't even know, and this is the ideal time to try it out.
Heyman was saying that it's impossible for them to gauge what's really getting over because there's no crowd reaction. So they're just going over what the internet is saying, but Vince doesn't read comments over the internet. So Vince is just in like an island by himself right now, just doing whatever he wants, I think. No idea what's over.
Well, he always has been, hasn't he?
Yeah. But like you said, no, he was listening to when Otis got over with the crowd, so he was using that the live crowd to gauge who to push, and now he just doesn't have that.
I think it was the last vestige with reality that he had left. It was his only society, the WWE crowd, as sad as that sounds.
Sure.
So now he's just a man on an island.
Yep, definitely is. So that brings us to the only match we haven't talked about, I think. Dude, match of the night for me, Sasha Banks beats...
What about Bobby Lashley versus
We discussed
Slapjack,
that as much
man?
as it needed to be discussed. I hate this fucking feud, It pisses me off, because it's heels versus heels, and they want you to give a shit. And why do I give a shit about either team?
I would like to give massive congratulations to MVP and the Hurt Business for not drowning under the absolute dredge that a feud with Retribution brings. MVP still
they're going to come out this the winners. Is Retribution are going to be buried.
But the whole concept of Retribution at this point is just ridiculous, man. Did you see the thing on Raw with Maya Yim shouting, "Get it off me, get it off me, get it off me"? And she's rolling around on the floor, scratching herself, saying, "Get it off me." It looked like she was having a seizure.
Oh yeah, you said something about this. What?
So I assume that the new gimmick, right, is... Hear me out here, because I tried to think of it from Vince McMahon's perspective. The new gimmick is that they've been microchipped.
What?
By Ali, the computer hacker.
Oh, fuck off.
And he's mind controlling them so that they defeat the system, because he's bitter that none of his pushes have worked out, and they're gonna his hacking machine's gonna break, and they're gonna come back alive and go back to being Djokovic and be like, what's going on? Where have we been? I bet you a fucking pint.
No.
I bet you a pint.
That's complete
man.
science fiction, because there's no way that's a thing.
I also love I find storyline. I find it really funny that the Nexus was actually pretty successful, like in
Yeah, they were
history.
like really popular at the beginning.
So why didn't they just turn up from NXT as themselves and call themselves Nexus
We're
Part 2?
taking over.
Like,
Yeah,
why did they have to be? Why did they have to be some sort of weird?
Bane masks.
Um,
And the masks don't even
you
work. Maya Kim is so obviously it's her. You can tell.
well, no, it's not even that, dude. If you watch her promo, she has to keep pushing it up. It's falling off.
Brilliant.
Yeah, you missed one nice power slam. That was it.
Who is Slapjack?
Slapjack is Shane Thorne, who I'm not very
Okay.
familiar with. Yeah, I was hoping you knew anything about him.
I know of him, but
I think wasn't he part of a tag team? And he was hanging around Raw for like 2 weeks with MVP, and then he just ran away again. Do you remember that? Anyway, yeah. So Sasha Banks versus Bayley.
Oh, dude, for me, this is match of the night. It was fantastic. It was so innovative. Like the way they were using weapons, the way they were jumping off the cage, the spots that they did, everything felt fresh. I had so much fun with this.
I think this is very clearly what happens when you build a feud up for long enough to the point where people are actually excited to see what happens, and the wrestlers are into giving the best thing possible. This was a great match. There was some amazing spots in this as well. Like a sunset flip into a power bomb.
The sunset flip into the chair that's wedged into the corner, and her head just smashes into it.
That was brutal. That was brutal. Sasha's meteoras were really good as well. I noticed that's a move that they kept saying now. Do you know what? Do you know what Sasha was? Do you know what Bayley? Sorry, was trying to do with those two?
Right, I wanted to talk about this because I actually loved this moment. So she went under the ring and got some duct tape, and then she couldn't open the duct tape. So she yells at the ref, "I'm really sweaty. Can you help me with this?" And the ref was like, "No, I can't help you." Like his tone was just like, "Are you an idiot? Of course I can't help you." The competitor, and I just love the fact that I don't know if that was ad-libbed, whether she didn't want the camera to pick her
Definitely.
up, or whether she did it on purpose. But either way, I think it fits her character perfectly. That she's so up her own arse that she thinks people are going to help her beat someone up. You know, I thought it was fantastic. And then she taped up some fucking kendo sticks that just looks useless and stupid. And then she turns around to the commentary team and is like, "You see what I did there? This is gonna really hurt." And we're all looking at it like, "What are you on?" It's fucking useless. And anyway, so much time has stalled. I was like, they've botched a moment here. But then Sasha's got the fire extinguisher, and then they keep going. I was like, was she stalling for time on purpose, or did she not hit a mark and then they just saved it? Either way, it worked.
This was definitely not on purpose. And can you imagine Ryback in the same spot?
If someone else, that got really flustered, it would have looked awful. But they saved it. Whatever was meant to happen there.
Everything about this was great. If I was to nitpick, it went a little too long for me. Just before 10 minutes before the end, where they started to flag in energy, and therefore the sort of momentum started to flag, and therefore the aggression between the two, and the sort of bitterness and hatefulness that had been present throughout the entire match sort of went away. But once they got back into the finish again, they went into the closing moments and put together some nice set pieces. It was straight back on.
Yeah, I get that. I feel like
level.
all of the guys and girls in the Hell in the Cell were told that they have to go 30 minutes.
Well, it didn't drag anywhere near as long as Orton McIntyre. I was so disappointed with Orton McIntyre because those are two of my favourite guys of the year. I thought it was the equivalent of, I don't know, fireworks, right? They're pretty to look at, but there's no substance going on, and it's just you're waiting around for a minute or two before the next
We've
set
discussed it
comes
many
along.
times, and I don't know why. Like, I don't dislike Drew, but I can't get on board with him so much.
Yeah, you didn't like Drew as much as me.
These two, I've loved them all year. I feel like they've had the best matches, the best story. They dragged The Rock's cousin for a match somehow.
They got landed some pretty bad.
Yeah, and they've just pulled it out of the bag. For me, these two have been the star players all year, and this match lived up to it. I'm just a little disappointed that this blow-off match It's probably not over anyway, but this didn't happen at Mania, because I feel like this match, 5 minutes shorter, could have headlined WrestleMania.
That's the thing with this at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of, and I agree with you completely. I wanted this at Mania as well. There's a lot of matches, a lot of feuds that seem to, I don't know whether you agree with me on this, they just don't seem to be paced correctly or organically sort of paced. Because Sasha Bailey, everybody thought, went too long because they didn't actually expect them to keep them together for so long. And then they did, and people got excited. And then it just sort of fizzled out again. The opposite with Orton McIntyre. Nobody was really dying for that match, and they just kept it going for a really long time. And then weirdly give Orton the win at the end of us being bothered with
it. It's because they're never in control. But because they have all of the best wrestlers in the world, whenever stuff is naturally happening, it's great. But the writers and the bookers themselves are never in control, so they're losing the spark, and then they're resparking it, and it's over and over.
It does really, really show just how lost they are when they don't have a crowd. And I think it's worse with WWE because they are such an insular company. They are such an internal force. They don't look around them or understand what's going on anywhere else. So that when they're removed from their one life support, they can't judge it for themselves naturally at all.
Which is a shame because they've had some great stuff this year. And I feel like they keep dropping the ball and then just almost catching it before it's completely ruined.
It's really, really confusing for me to try and understand that you have Jey Uso and Roman Reigns having a feud in the same company that Retribution exists. I don't even know how that works.
On the same TV show as well, right?
Yeah.
Or they've swapped now?
Yeah, they've swapped now, but I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
How does that even exist? Anyway, I just wanted to talk quickly about beauty of this finish. That this was my favourite part of the entire show. It was like a picture-perfect finish. Sasha cross-facing Bailey, and Sasha had put a chair around Bailey's neck, playing up to the angle in which Bailey had hurt the neck before. That was another thing. These two played into that the whole way through. Bailey was trying to re-injure Sasha's neck, and Sasha was trying to give her a taste of their own medicine. So anyway, she puts her crossface on, she puts the chair in Bailey's neck, and then she fucking viciously just keeps kicking the chair so that it goes up into Bailey's neck until Bailey finally sort of taps out and passes out.
Yeah, what it was nasty finish. Looking.
It was brutal. And then I just loved the...
And that was immediately after, for about 2 minutes, them stealing each other's finishes.
And then I just loved the fact that Sasha stared at Bailey for a full minute and a half before she bothered to even look at the championship.
Yeah, that's why I feel like this isn't over. It's definitely going to continue. Which I'm happy with, because I feel like I can continuously watch these two have matches.
I think this is where they book themselves into corners, again, because it's going to have to be Sasha versus Asuka.
Survivor Series.
Yeah, this is where they go. This is
where
it
gets problematic
for them because so Survivor Series. I don't know when it started, but the last couple of years, it's always champion versus champion now.
Yeah,
which was a novel idea originally, and it was a cool idea for a little while. But this is what happens. This is the problem. You can't always it doesn't work so that you always know when a feud is ending. It might have to carry on naturally. Or the crowd might want more of it, or you might have to stop it because
I'm probably wrong, but I feel like it started when someone got injured, someone that AJ was feuding, and then to keep the fans happy, they had Finn Balor versus AJ, which was like a dream match that actually didn't really live up to it instead, and they were both champions at the time.
Definitely sounds about right. They wouldn't have come up with a new idea at this point. This should easily go another couple of months, honestly. They've dragged Orton and McIntyre out, and nobody wanted that. This should actually go. But then this is the problem. This is their first singles match, and they did it in a Hell in a Cell.
It's not their first single match. Remember they had that stupid one last month.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. You're right. How do you up the Hell in a Cell match, which had such a great finish and such a great uses of weapons all the way through?
So once again, the Survivor Series, you have to have champion versus champion. Hell in a Cell has to be in Hell in a Cell. It's quite clear that problem with the latter end of the year is the gimmicks. Because after Survivor Series, you've got TLC.
Yeah,
haven't you?
TLC after that, and then what's December? Or is that December?
That's December.
Then Royal Rumble, then Elimination Chamber.
Because I think between Hell in a Cell and Survivor Series, they usually have a Saudi show.
Probably not going to happen this year, no?
No.
No.
But no, that's the problem, right? You have. I don't think McIntyre would have lost the belt this month if they didn't have to do the champion versus Roman. Sasha Bailey definitely would have happened and existed if they didn't have to face the Raw Women's Champion off against the SmackDown Women's. They cause issue for themselves in their schedule before they've even gotten round to writing a story.
That's crazy, isn't it? That they do that to themselves. Is that just all branding and all, or do you think that's just all Vince?
I think that's. I can't blame Vince for that. I think that's branding. I think they obviously do it for a reason, right? Like, you can't. As much as we think it's stupid, there must be a reason that they have Hell in a Cell every single year. Like, they must get a certain amount of casuals in.
Yeah, because I mean, look how important Rumble and Mania are. Once you've done TLC for so many years, it's got that name value.
But this is where I do become a bit. I try to defend WWE at a certain point, because can you imagine any other wrestling company with the schedule that they have, where they have to do this match every single month, and they do it as consistently as WWE managed to.
Not as this consistently, but TNA kind of did it. They had Lockdown and they had Destination X.
I thought about Lockdown earlier today when I was watching Bobby Lashley versus Slapjack, because you can kind of see why the early lockdowns were a bit of a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
Because they just they had everything in the cage. Bobby Lashley versus Slapjack in the cage.
But it kind of worked, because they put. I know TNA had a lot of stupid gimmicks, but most of the matches had an extra layer to them, and then after you've watched 3 matches. The cage was just kind of there. You didn't notice it so much. I think the problem is it was Hell in a Cell, regular match, Hell in a Cell, regular match, Hell in a Cell. Whereas if they'd all been in Hell in a Cell, I don't think it would have taken... It would ruin the Hell in a Cell as a gimmicked match completely if it hasn't been ruined already. But I feel like it wouldn't ruin the show.
Sure.
But yeah, for me, the Hell in a Cell gimmick's been ruined already.
Everything's starting to be a little bit ruined.
I don't know. I still like a Money in the Bank. Well, apart from this year's one.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say I do have a soft. I see. Everybody seems to have their own favourite gimmick pay-per-view. I always have a soft spot for an Elimination Chamber.
Yes, those are still good.
But
I'm not keen on the square cage.
But there's, again, why do we have to overkill the overkill? You've already got it once a year. Do we need two a show?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't need 2 a show, do we?
But then you got to make it like co-branded, which is what Survivor Series is, and again, like you said before, they're just causing themselves problems.
Well, they've changed something. Last year, everybody got pissy because NXT were part of the champion versus champion stuff. This year, they've taken the NXT champions away from it, and everybody's gone pissy. So it's just sometimes, as much pure shit as they drivel out, and I'm not defending most of the stuff that I've seen. I'm not watching the weekly shows right now because they're awful. Sometimes you got to feel a little bit of sympathy for WWE, because it doesn't matter whether they do good or do wrong. They're still going to get criticised relentlessly because people can criticise them.
For sure. They've developed a toxic fan base, which is their own fault. They bred that, but
it's definitely their own fault. Yeah.
But yeah, once you get into that situation, it's hard to. It just sucks for like young casual fans to get involved when there's a toxic fan.
But I mean, looking at and I'm not calling you toxic. That was your word. That's not something I want to say to you at all. I'm just making the point. Like that Roman Uso match, if that was a different promotion, I feel like you would have enjoyed it.
If AEW had put that match on, I feel like I still would have been angry with how messy it was at the end. I liked what the 2 guys did. They put on a great match. I just didn't like how so many extra layers were put on it when it's already a great story. It didn't even need the cage. Never mind the strap and the I Quit. Those 2 just having I know they had a regular match last month, so they got to do something different. But these 2 have created such a perfect story that we don't need all the bells and whistles.
See, to me, I agree with the point that you just made there. You said they've already had one match, so they needed to do something different. I don't think they should have done anything different. I think they should have had a one and done. Roman's tribal king.
Yeah.
Why is Roman even entertaining the idea of a return match with somebody that he's alphaed? They didn't need this match at all,
Well,
really.
wasn't it that they refused to say the words, right? So that's why they had to have another match to... I don't know. I mean, when you say it like that, it makes no sense, does it?
Yeah. If Roman's the alpha, Roman would just ignore them until they're subservient anyway, surely. But, that's nitpicking, I guess.
No,
What was your overall thoughts on the show?
I don't know. For me, it was a 1.5 match show for me. So, it was okay. I don't think I'll ever rewatch it.
It was definitely a 2-match show for me. I agree to disagree with you on that Roman stuff. I thought it was a great piece of business. Sasha Bailey was great. I'm never watching Randy Orton versus McIntyre again, and the rest was throwaway. So...
It's a shame because Orton and Drew definitely could have done something great. But it's a shame, like we said, we had fatigue of the cages. And if they had gone on first and Roman went on last, would have been a different story.
That's exactly the thing. If Roman Uso was the main event, people would shit on it. If Sasha Bailey was the main event, people would shit on it. McIntyre and Orton, for all I know, might have had a great match. I just can't see that because I've got jaded eyes, and they're not independently jaded. They've been jaded by the product I'm watching.
Did you notice that they try to present the Hell in a Cell cage differently with each match? So the first one they did the entrances and then the cage lowered, and then the second one sorry, the cage lowered and then they walked in. The second one they came in and then the cage lowered, and then the third one they lowered it with pyros and fire was erupting everywhere. Yeah, so they try to make it feel different every time.
Emperor's new clothes.
Exactly.
But I did find it funny that they this just shows you that nobody watches the pre-show and they know it. They lowered the cell as the pre-show was going off the air, and then went onto the air of the pay-per-view and lowered the cell again.
Yeah, brilliant.
So
that's funny. Okay, well that's that.
I might check out Halloween Havoc just out of curiosity to see whether they use the old setup. I highly doubt it. Considering the way they use Great American Bash, I don't think they will.
With special presenter Shotzi Blackheart.
That's the one,
Is she the most spooky looking gimmick that they've got?
She's got green hair, I guess.
And and
the
hipster looking tights and socks.
Yeah.
And a tank.
No, I'm more interested. I'm more interested to see if they actually bother to use the WCW
with the massive pumpkins.
Mm-hmm. I doubt.
I mean, they did it with In Your House.
Yeah, but with Great American Bash, they just got a car.
A car and an American flag. That was it. Yeah, but that was quickly thrown together to compete with AEW. So this might be a bit different. They might have a little bit more thought have gone into it.
Just while we're live on air, the real Kurt Angle just liked our photo.
Whoa! Exciting.
The actual Kurt Angle.
Which photo?
It's just a stock image of
with the movie.
Yeah. Thanks, Kurt.
I wonder if he ever thinks about that movie. I was like, what a mistake I made. Or maybe he looks back and he's like, that was some of the best, happiest memories of his career.
If he doesn't want to look back on that memory, I've just made him. I just made the real Kurt Angle look back at that, and I feel really fucking bad about it. But
there are some actors that don't watch their work. So quite possibly Kurt Angle never will watch the movie.
Do you reckon I've just made Kurt Angle's evening worse?
Worse? Well, he likes the picture, so maybe...
Yeah, but maybe he forgot about the movie. Maybe it's going to play on his
the
mind
actor
now.
I could have been if it wasn't for that bullshit.
So we've got something really exciting coming up.
Yeah, we're going to start a whole new saga. Not even a season, it's going to be a saga.
Until we get bored.
So we're starting in January 1990, and we're just going to go forever. Forever, I think?
Forever, well, as long as we can. As long as we want to. I'm enjoying myself right now, so who knows? Maybe we will be able to do this.
3 shows in.
You watch Wrestle?
I started it.
Oh, okay.
So we're 2 shows in.
2 shows in.
2 shows in. And already there's a massive stark difference between WCW and WWF.
Yes.
Yeah, but we'll get to that next week.
Great. Good chat.
Hell in the Cell is over with for another year.
That was nice and quick, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, share, and subscribe to keep it botched up, brother.